Hey Flosstube, it's Kerry and Stitches. It's Friday. Is it the 15th of October? I did not check. I do not know. We're going to go with it. This is my Flosstube Stitch with me number 3. I hope you're all well and are having a good stitchy fortnight. I forgot I'm recording on the iPad, so I'm looking in the wrong direction. I hope you're having a good stitchy fortnight, week, month. I hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be doing a cross stitch confessions tag. These are questions that I've come up with from things put in one of my recent Flosstube videos. There's suggestions for that. Some ones I've come up with friends and things I've come up with myself. There is a really good one out there. Oh, Vintage Chic Stitcher. There we go. She's done one, which is far, what's the word? Bigger. I'm going to do part 1 and part 2, so we'll do the rest of them next time. So this is what I'm stitching on. This is Luminous Fibre Arts, A Raven's Reply. And you can clearly see where I've gotten to. The top border is done. I'm trying to I put it in my lap stand today just to hopefully try and make it a little bit easier to see. So, let's pop that back up there so I can actually read it as I go along. And let's get going. So, welcome here if you're new. There we go. Welcome if you're a new subscriber. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer. It's lovely to have you here with me. So this is my stitch with me, not a regular update. That'll be next week. Oh, and you've still got a week to enter my 3rd year Flossiversary draw. That closes on the 21st, we're going to call it, maybe easier. Anywho, so on with the confessions. Have you ever had a stitched on a piece of... Let's start again, because I've just basically made notes. I didn't actually write them into questions. So, have you had a piece of fabric that's been too small for the piece you're stitching on? And at what point did you realise? Only one that springs to mind is one of the cross stitcher cover kits that I did, which was the bird next to a bird cage. So I figured, I didn't bother to check because I figured if it's come from a magazine cover kit, then it should be big enough for the thing. It was an even weave type material, and I ended up missing out a whole row. I mean, I had only started it like 3 or 4 blocks down from the top. It wasn't like I'd wasted a ton of space. And I ended up it was only when I made a mistake and I was trying to find my mistake that I realised that I was going to run out of fabric at the bottom, or I would literally finish it on the last line of the fabric. So I ended up missing a whole row of the bird cage out, which was fine. You couldn't tell. I couldn't tell you what row's missing now. And then ended up with 1 row at the bottom. So that's my only... Yeah, and that's the only time, I think. Okie dokie. Have you had a flossident? That's what I'm calling a floss accident. So, like a coffee incident, or a colour run when you've washed it, that kind of thing. Have I? Yes, I have. Probably have, but I've never had a floss run because I don't tend to wash my stuff. But I have had like residue left over from when I frogged something. I had that on the blackwork Christmas houses I did, and I frogged out a piece of green metallic from the top. I'd stitched too many, so I frogged out. It was about 1 inch. 28. So what's that? Maybe 10, 15 stitches, something like that. And it left a line, and it wasn't going to be overstitched, and it was on white, and it didn't come out. And I did wash it, and it didn't come out. So we carried on regardless, because that's what I did. I also had one recently, and it wasn't a typical colour that I was expecting to leave a residue. And I was talking about this last night with Heather, and I don't remember what colour it was. But I was stitching on something, and it was one of those colours. It wasn't black, it wasn't red. The colours that you expect to leave a residue. I think it was yellow or an orange or something like that, and I was really surprised that it left the residue behind. I should be switching, but I'm not. Looking at the chart, see where I've got them to. Oh, this is being stitched on a 36 count Dr Smiths Tonic by Sparklies. Not in the called for. It's a mixture of actually gassed weeks and classic colour works in all sorts of pretty flosses. Going off the DMC conversion a bit and the picture, and just winging it. That's kind of what I do. So, okay, so we're going 4-2, 4-2. Okay, right, we got a rhythm. Anywho, right, so, oh yes, Floss. And of course there's the coffee incident. Anybody who's followed me on Instagram for long enough will know about the coffee incident, where I was sat drinking I have a table by me, well I don't anymore, but I used to have a little table by me, and I had, on top of it, had a small like cabinet where I'd put my, I've moved the cabinet since, there's like a little, like kind of A4 drawer unit, like a little, yeah, so there was often stuff piled on top of it, apparently including a bobbin of 742. And one morning I'm sat in my stitch chair drinking coffee, like getting ready for the day to go to work and all that kind of thing. So, and I remember distinctly getting up, and I had my cup in my hand, my cup with my beach hats on, and walking out the door, just finishing off my coffee, the last couple of sips, tipping it up as I was walking through the doorway and going, and there was a full bobbin of 742 in the bottom of this cup. So at some point I must have knocked the table. The bobbin had fallen off the top of the little drawer unit and fallen in the cup, and I hadn't noticed. And yeah, bobbin in the coffee. That's right, because I was using it to stitch coffee. It's the Lizzie Kate one, Coffee Time, I think it is. With the 3 coffee charts, and it says but first coffee and all that. So, or I just kitted that up. So I ended up putting that thread into the thing because it just kind of seemed silly enough. I do still have the thread. I did rinse the thread out and everything. I do still have the thread. It's still on the same bobbin as well. Just dried it out. Just shoved it in the floss in the box. And I know it's that one. So as you can see, even though I'm stitching with weeks, I am doing full rows and coming back, because that's kind of how I feel like doing it. I'm a lot slower stitching like this than I would be usually. So I'm out of practice. I don't stitch in two-handed very often, so this is taking a bit of getting used to. So question 3, cut a hole in your fabric by accident. No, not me. Somebody else did though. Oh, it's not, I don't think it's down here, is it? Oh, it's over there, but you can't see it. I was stitching the little DMC black and white kit that you might have seen in my black quilt video, with the bird on, and it was a whip, and I found it on the floor one morning with a hole in it. So apparently the scissors fell on it. Believe that, believe anything. Anyway, I cut a corner because it was a DMC kit that was very generous Ada allowance. So I cut the corner off the kit and did a little patch because it was going to be in an area that was going to be stitched over anyway. So they did a patch and it was fine. So these are not interfacing or something like that. I just had to use a sharp or something to get through it. It was a very clean cut, which was fortunate. So there you go. Ruined a chart. Instead of ruined a chart, I did have a few years ago, some Lizzie Kates that got something spilt on them. I don't know. Anywho, they kind of got a bit stuck together, so they're a bit Worse for wear, but perfectly usable, and they're still in my stash today. It's Cross Stitch Room Residence, if I remember right, was one of them. Have I ever bought a chart twice? Kind of. When I did Alpine for hubby this year, I did buy the chart as a download from Satsuma Street's Etsy, and then found it in a magazine. I kind of had a feeling it had been in a magazine, but I couldn't find the issue. Even looking through the app, I couldn't find. Or had I just picked them? I don't know. I thought I had it, couldn't find it, bought it again, and then promptly found it, as is always the way. Have I ever had a bad FFO? As I wrote these questions a couple of months ago, I don't know what I mean by that. So I'm assuming I mean, did it go horribly wrong? Was it salvageable? I've never had one I couldn't salvage. I can get quite creative when I need to. I've got ones that I've not been happy with. Maybe, yeah. I've got ones I haven't been happy with, but generally I'm okay at kind of putting together. So generally ones that are kind of like I've gone a bit, that's a bit when I've done it, but nothing that I haven't, it's been terrible. Okay. Am I a floss licker? Periodically. Sometimes not. Not very often, but I couldn't say I've never done it. Do you follow backstitch exactly how it's charted or wing it? Wing it. I mean, sometimes I'll follow backstitch. Oh, she knows. You know, how it's charted. Depends what it's charted like. Alice, there's definitely a lot of winging it going on because it's a handful to... It's an absolute handful, some of the backstitch. So anything where backstitch goes, you know, through stitches and things. You know what I mean? I don't just mean that straightforward diagonals. I mean like where you have to come up through the middle of a stitch and then go back down through the middle of a stitch and things like that. I mean, what should we call it? Fractional backstitch, maybe, should we call it? If I, you know, that kind of thing, I have been known to wing it. Or if it doesn't really, you need the backstitch, but it doesn't matter if it's not perfect on how it is. So I can't think of an example, but yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, backstitch is more of a guide. In case you're wondering, this thread is Weeks. Is it Weeks? Yeah, Weeks Clockwork Orange. Just thought I'd tell you. The other orange is Weeks Carrot, and the black is DMC 310. Although the bird I am just stitching in Raven because I felt like it needed it. In fact, I don't think I had any of the... No, I didn't have any of the called for this. So we just kind of went with it. Whatever. Right, next. Have I used scissors for something other than fabric or floss? Occasionally a nail. And my good... I've got some scissors about yay big. Some really good Prim, I think they are ones. Purple handles. They are fantastic, and they're what I usually use for cutting my cross stitch fabric, and I did cut Lottie's fringe with them during lockdown, so that'll be a yes. But woe betide anybody that tries to cut paper with them, and everybody knows that. I have a tin, like a pencil pot next to my stitching chair. It has like 5 pairs of scissors in. It has a pair of nail scissors. It has my big purple ones. And it has 2 pairs of paper scissors, 4 pairs of scissors, 2 pairs of just general purpose scissors. All with different coloured handles. So that makes sense. Everybody knows. Don't touch the purple ones. Needle in the mouth, clothes, or instead of using a needle minder, yes. In fact, I did that this morning. Arm of the sofa. When we used to have a fabric sofa, arm of the sofa was my pin cushion. Because I generally stitch in hand, I don't always use needle minders on my fabric, but I do usually have one on a clipboard. So my clipboard at the moment, it does have needles on it. And that one does usually sit on the, usually I have got one on my clipboard. So that's why I like really small minders, because they're light. I do like this pumpkin. It has a rhythm to it, even if I did get one way wrong. So let's just sit here going 3, 2, 3, 2, like a mad person. Okay, so yes, I am guilty of that. I also just put them, they're often just in the fabric like this as well, just because. Anyway, yes. Because I haven't got a needle minder handy, or I might not be using, if I'm just like filling in or something, I don't always have the chart next to me. Okay. Eating while stitching, yes, 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 yes. That is in fact chocolate. It's usually chocolate. If I'm going to spill something on my fabric, it's going to be one of 2 things. It's going to be chocolate or coffee. I don't tend to stitch when, I tend to move my stitching when I'm eating and things properly, but if it's going to be chocolate or coffee. I've got water on mine before now. I've never spilled a drink on mine, and I've often had to get bits of coffee. Oh, the milk incident. Oh, yes. Okay, so it's not technically eating whilst I'm stitching, but some of you will have heard this story on one of my floss tubes. I was stitching a biscornu last year for a swap, possibly the year before. Sarah, when did we do the biscornu swap? When I stitched you the Phoenix one. Anyway, stitching a biscornu. It was on hand-dyed fabric that somebody had dyed for me, so I had no idea how colour fast it was going to be, and I had it in my bag because I was stitching on it sort of when I was commuting to work, and it must have been about 18 months ago. Anyway, I buy the milk for work, so when I pass the shop on the way to work, I pick up a bottle of milk for work, and it was just my little bag that I carry everything to work in. And I didn't really put the milk in the bag as I'd done, 100 times before. My stitching was in a cloth bag at the time. Nothing new there, cloth project bag. So anyway, we got to work. So I came in, put my bag where I always put my bag. I hadn't got around to taking the milk out to put in the fridge because I was going to do it when I made a drink in about, half an hour later. Pulled the milk out the bag and it was dripping. I was like, oh dear. And then looked in the bag, which was kind of hard, sign up a bit of a waterproof kind of bag as well. There's a puddle of milk at the bottom. And my stitching in it, so basically, and the fabric bag that my stitching was in had just absorbed it as had the fabric. So I remember literally abandoning making coffee and running. My office is on the first floor. Running downstairs to the kitchen with this dripping piece of stitching in my hands to rinse it out, just to try and get the milk out, and then left it drying on the filing cabinet. Along with that, rinsed all the threads and everything out. It all left it drying all there. Got home and then washed it properly. And then I think there's photographs on my Instagram of it just all drying on the clothes horse. So, yeah. Oh yeah, that's happened. Yes, the milk incident. So I now always make sure my cross stitch, if I take a travel project, it's in a waterproof bag. I trust nothing anymore, nothing I say. Okay. Have you ever done a thread conversion, not written it down, and then forgotten what colour was for where? Yeah? All the time. All the time. Especially if I do that bit where I pull a thread from another thing and I haven't written it down. I'm going, oh yeah, I need a bit of yellow. Oh, let me just pull it out of another project and complete it, and then not pick it up a week later and realise I need some more of that yellow. No idea what project I've taken it out. Well, months later usually. No idea what project, no idea what floss. A project may well have even been put away by that point. So yeah. Yeah, I do that. He thinks there might be a mistake somewhere along here. Oh no, we're okay. It's just one stitch. Bangs head against brick wall. Because I've already started it with, now you get to watch me frog. Perhaps this wasn't the best thing to do this, but anywho, so yes, I'm always doing it. In fact, I did it yesterday. I was stitching the pumpkins for the Owl Forest freebie that I've reworked, and I generally cannot. I scribbled because it's quite obvious about what colours went where, but I scribbled next to it the brown that I'd used. And when I say scribble, it really was scribble. Couldn't read it. And I pulled out, and I hadn't put any of the colours in a project bag. I'd literally just left them dumped on the top of a box of floss that I was sorting through. And yeah, so no idea. So I went, right, well, that's a brown, that'll do. And it was fine. It wasn't like I had to continue on with it or anything, so it was fine. Now if I just still frogged all this because I didn't need to. Yeah, I did make a mistake. So yeah. So I do it all the time. Don't write I'm terrible at writing conversions down. So have I ever mislaid a cross stitch piece? Thank you, Sharon, for this question. I know this one was Sharon. So not a whip. I don't think I've ever mislaid a whip. They may have gotten shoved to the back of a cupboard and forgotten about, but never mislaid. But I have mislaid a finish that's gotten lost in a move, and I talked about that on my Black Web video too, which was an Art Nouveau design that I did, and which was a completed piece that used to be framed. The frame got broken and got popped in a plastic bag to keep it clean during the move, thinking, well, I'll reframe it when we've moved house, because we're talking like 2 weeks before we moved house. And I have no idea what happened. I assume it went into the box of pictures, but I've never come across the coming back across it, so I'm sure it'll turn up at some point in a box somewhere, because we still have a couple of boxes in the garage, so, or it'll be in a box or something, I don't know, it'll turn up eventually. Or it's gotten put with something else that when we first moved, put away tidily, I don't know. It'll turn up eventually. These things always do. Okay, have I ever underplayed a recent stash purchase? Not really, don't tend to. I tend to talk about most of them, because I run around the house going, look, fabric, and he looks at me as if I've lost my mind. So we did have a conversation about needle minders, and he thought £20 was perfectly reasonable. So yeah. So no, I don't tend to, because I'm not a huge spender. Not really a huge spender on cross stitch stuff. So although he has noticed the number of Quai scroll boxes coming through the door at the moment. I think I did 5 in 3 weeks. 6 in 3 weeks. 6 in 3 weeks. Really small orders, but I've been very good that I don't need anything at the moment. But he's used to random envelopes turning up with beads all the time, so not all the time, but I tend to do lots of small, little tiny purchases rather than one big kind of like, yeah. Have you ever avoided counting the number of whips because you're afraid of the number? No. I think I've got 12. I think. That's purely because I can't remember. I'm not afraid of the number. Perfectly happy with 12. I say I've got my starts planned, so it'll be interesting that it'll go above 20, potentially. It'll go over 20. Unless I can get 2 finishes in the next 2 weeks. No, if I can get 4 finishes in the next 2 weeks, it'll stay at 20. But yeah, no, not really. It's just, it is what it is. 1, 2. I'm going to try and still check this line here. It's making me go cross-eyed, this. Probably should have just filled the pumpkin in. That's what I should have done. 2, 3. Okay. Okay. Oh, 28 minutes. Okay. Have you ever found things in your stash that you forgot you had? Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. My box of like the DNC variegators and stuff like that, I tend to just go straight for my weeks or whatever and forget about those. So I did pull them out for the Owl Forest piece that I've just finished. So oh, there's a mistake in this somewhere. Oh, 2. It's a good thing I'm nearly finished, because I can't find this mistake now, so I'm just going to pop the needle there. And yeah, so I forget that I have them, even though they're in the same cupboard as the rest of the floss. So I did say I need to get them bobbinated and put them in a box so that I can see them more regularly. Have you ever, I've done that question, a couple of charts here and there that I kind of go, oh yeah, I forgot I had that one. Did that with Sunflower Biscornu. So have I ever orientated the fabric the wrong way when I've started? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, as you can see, this one's got masses, but my plan is, because it was such a small, is to do that one there, and then I'm going to do Blackbird's Blackbird there. I'm really frugal when it comes to fabric, so I like to get as much as I can. Hence why it's really hard to have gotten this into the snap, just because I've only got a 2-inch margin either side, and I've started top left. So because I don't use the snap very often, and stitch in hand, I can really, like, a 2-inch margin is I look at that and go, that's a big margin. I've left a lot of fabric there. I won't need that much to frame it, and I probably won't. I can generally get away with framing with about an inch and a half, or finishing. So yeah. So I don't think I ever have orientated the fabric the wrong way. But I'm also afraid to cut fabric as well. So hence the giant piece, and like Alice is on a big piece of fabric still, because I won't cut it to size until I'm ready done. Plus it saves the unravelling as well. And what else is on a big piece? Tiny Modernist. Although I did cut the bottom of that off because it was the perfect colour for my owl forest. So there we go. So cross stitch mistakes with me, and I'm going to go and try and work out where I've gone wrong, because I can't see it, because it was 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. That leaves me a stitch over. So anyway, I'm going to go and work out what this mistake is. So take care, and I will see you all next week for my regular update. And we will pick up with cross stitch confessions in a month's time, and do the rest from Vintage Cheeks video. I'll link the video below, because some of these questions do overlap, so I'll pick out the ones I haven't done. So until next week, take care and happy stitching, and bye.